Thabo Mbeki Foundation currently hosting a peace and security dialogue in Magaliesburg. The dialogue is held as the African continent is battling a number of conflicts, not least of which troubling situations in countries like Sudan. Khayelihle Khumalo tracking this story for us tonight, joining us live from Magaliesburg. Good to have your time, Khayelihle. So talk to us about the focus of this conversation. When you talk about peace and security on the continent, there is a lot to consider and a lot that needs urgent action.
Well, very much so, Mbeki. One of the pressing challenges facing the African continent has to be insecurity, the instability, the proliferation of the armed conflicts. A very big talking point. In fact, a short while ago, the chairperson of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, Geraldine Fraser-Muleketi, said this is part of a strategic intervention from the continent, as you know, that the mantra for the African solutions for the African problems. But really to give us a snapshot for the next 4 days or so, we're joined by the CEO of Thabo Mbeki Foundation, Mr. Boqwana. So once again, thank you so much for your time. Let's look at the importance of this dialogue. It's one of your flagship programs where you're also trying to foster the spirit of dialogue, making sure that Africa is able to have long-lasting peace.
Kaya, thank you very much. You will know that sadly Africa is home to 70% of the conflicts worldwide. You've heard when President Chisano was speaking earlier on, we have the most terrorist attacks that have taken place, at least in the past 10 years in the continent. We've got the most unconstitutional changes of government. But the sad reality is that most of the attempts to solve the conflicts in our continent take place in the capitals of the world, not in Africa. So what we decided to do as a foundation starting last year was to provide a platform for convening of the Pan-African agents who are not prepared to inherit an Africa that is in crisis, an Africa that is in conflict, an Africa that is underdeveloped. So we provide this environment to be able to discuss the African peace architecture, whether that peace architecture is effective or not. In every particular year then, we will do 2 case studies. You will recall last year we dealt quite extensively with the Sahel region and the 2 Sudans. And beyond that, the work on the Sahel, the work on the 2 Sudan is ongoing. This year, we're going to do a deep dive on the Great Lakes, in particular the Congo, and specifically the Eastern Congo, and also the northern part of Mozambique, the Capo de Galdo. So that's why then you had President Chisano and many of the colleagues from Mozambique that are here. So we will be discussing those regions at least in the next 2 days. And on Saturday, we will all again convene to look at the pathways for peace, the practical implementation steps that we will be taking going forward.
And just while we have you, just to clear the air, we saw from the DRC that the administration of President Felix Tshisekedi won't be here, but the chair of your foundation has been very clear that this is not a negotiating forum. This is about making sure that you bring all the Africans to do their bit in terms of making sure that we do see a stabilized eastern parts of Congo, especially because we look at the role that was played by former President Mbeki, you know, the inter-Congolese dialogue in Sun City, but also looking at the current developments. Maybe you want to take us into confidence, some of the key players here?
For sure. I think the idea here is not to have a conversation of big men or big women. It's a conversation of ordinary Africans who are concerned about the state of conflicts in various countries. As you see here, we've got diplomats, we've got ministers of defense, we've got experts in conflict resolution, we've got academics. More importantly, as President Chisano was saying, we've got a large number of young women and young people that are prepared to undertake the diplomatic work towards ensuring that eventually Africa knows peace.
All right, so thank you so much for your time. We're going to release you. We know that it's quite a very busy period here in Magaliesburg, Thembekile. A lot of issues, really. A short while ago, former Mozambican President Joaquim Chissano was speaking about the essence of peace, but also talking about the complexities when it comes to the root causes of conflict. You know that in Cabo Delgado, in the northern parts of Mozambique, which happens to be one of the richest parts in that country, you know, with the gas deposits and many other precious minerals. Oftentimes, it becomes a curse for Africa as you look at what's really currently unfolding in the eastern part of the DRC. So it's going to be really fascinating 4 days here in Magaliesburg. So with that, back to you in studio, Thembekile.
Khayelihle, thank you very much for that. SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo at that conference where peace and security on the African continent is being discussed tonight.